welcome to Sunday's edition of Cracking the Cryptic, where the best thing about today is that it isn't yesterday and it isn't April Fool's Day again. I got well and truly pranked by Mark yesterday. I had a stern phone call with him. Basically, he sent me a puzzle by F-Jam called And Then There Were None, themed on Agatha Christie's book, which I've subsequently learned apparently is the biggest selling murder mystery story of all time, and it's an incredibly clever puzzle. What was this phrase? It was something like you need lateral thinking, not just logic, to solve it. It took me hours literally to solve it yesterday, and I did make my way through it. It's caused an awful lot of comments on the video, and F-Jam in fact wrote to us this morning enclosing his intended solution path. So I thought some of you might be interested in reading that. So if I remember, I will post that on the community tab later on today, and you can see how the constructor envisaged the solution could be found. It's fascinating stuff, and if you've not checked out the puzzle or the video, it might be worth you doing it. I'll try and remember to put a link on the screen. Anyway, today we have something that is purely logical, I am assured, and it is really rather beautiful as well. This is called Tetris Sudoku, and it's by Trevor Nicholas. And Trevor Nicholas is a name that might be familiar to some of you, because Trevor Nicholas came up with one of my favourite hybrid puzzles of all time. Let me try and show you it. Here we go. Monopoly Sudoku. And look, Sven's software even allows you to see the Monopoly board peeping through the grid there. This is a lovely puzzle. So I might remember to put a link to this under the video as well. This is definitely worth having a look at, and I'm assured by the testers that this is also brilliant. Tetris Sudoku, and basically what happens is we've got to fill the grid, the top grid up, and the Tetris pieces, and then they all fall down, just as in the game of Tetris. They all fall down. They take the numbers with them, and then we've got to make sure that we can sort of do Sudoku in the bottom part of the grid as well. I think that's how it works. What I don't know is how difficult this is. I'm afraid I haven't got a clue. I did try and find it on Logic Masters Germany just before I turned on the webcam, and I failed. So I have literally no idea. You will have to judge from the length of the video whether or not this is approachable or very, very difficult. Now, let me start with some other news, or get on to some other news. We have got, over on Patreon, we released it yesterday at 4 p.m. UK time, the Knightmare on Sudoku Street. This is the Sudoku Skunkworks latest Sudoku hunt. And my goodness me, I've been astonished by some of the numbers that we've been seeing for that. So let me give you Riff Clown wrote to us earlier on with some statistics. The first puzzle in that hunt has been attempted 14,000 times already, which is quite a lot of times. and I need to congratulate, by the way, Jan Gazelius. Jan is a phenomenally quick solver, and Jan came in with the fastest time for completing all 19 Sudokus in the hunt of 10 hours, 23 minutes. So congrats, Jan, again. You were closely followed this time by Andrea Pachera, who was about half an hour after you. And then the next time, we have had a couple more entries in as well, but they were sort of 3 or 4 hours later. So of course I'll read out their names in due course. But Jan and Andrea were the first in. The feedback so far has been, as you would expect, absolutely great. So if you are a patron of the channel, do check out that hunt. You will enjoy it. And if you're not a patron of the channel, you might want to think about joining us and joining the best Sudoku club on earth. Now, birthdays. Happy birthday. I'm going to say Matthias. It could be Mateus, but I think Matthias, down there in Argentina, a country I've never visited but would love to go to. Your girlfriend Maria wrote to us and assured me that you are having chocolate cake today, Matthias. So, well, lucky you, frankly. And I hope you have a brilliant day, of course. And then the only other thing I need to do before we tackle Tetris Sudoku is to read out the names of successful solvers of last month's Patreon reward. We've still got lots of names to read out, lots of clever people amongst our patrons, of course, and well done to David Solomon, 7, Gunter Gera, Martin Phillips, John Palin, Craig Wotherspoon, Anthony Bailey, Brody Appleby and Yasmin Stewart, Yue Theus, or Theus perhaps, I'm afraid I'm not sure about the pronunciation of that one, Wayne Somerville, Stefan Engblom, Erich Peterson, Philip Holzhutter, Vic Olson, Micah Turvey, Scott Abercrombie, Daniel Walters and Katie Wigney. All of you sent in the correct entries. Congratulations, very well done indeed. And with that, let us turn our attention to Tetris Sudoku and see what Trevor has constructed for us this time. These are the rules. Normal Sudoku rules apply. In Tetris pieces, digits must sum to the small clue in the top left corner of the piece. Digits cannot repeat within a piece. So this is, it's basically normal killer Sudoku, but because all of the cages look exactly like Tetris pieces, we can describe them as such. So what would that mean? What you couldn't do, for example, is this. Because although at first blush, those 4 digits do add up to 16, and these two 5s don't seem to see each other through the mechanism of normal Sudoku. They don't share a row, column or box. They are in the same cage, and that's jolly naughty. Do not put the same digits in your Tetris pieces, or you will get the puzzle wrong. Now, additionally, after the grid is complete, the Tetris pieces will descend to the bottom of the grid, along with the digits placed inside them. So basically, just as in the game of Tetris, you can see all of these pieces fall down. So the 16 falls right down, and the 23 sort of falls on top of it. And they sort of pack. So if we were playing Tetris, all of these lines would be eliminated, I think. But we drop the pieces down with the digits that we put in them in the top grid. And it says the resulting 4x9 structure must form the bottom 4 rows of a valid Sudoku. So each row and box must contain the digits 1 to 9 once each. So once we've dropped these Tetris pieces, that row has to have the digits 1 to 9 once each. So does this one. So does this one. And this 3x3, whoopsie, has to have the digits 1 to 9 in it. And so does this one. And they are the rules. So do have a go at the puzzle. The way to play, as usual, is to click the link under the video. But now I get to play. Let's get cracking. And the first thing I can see here is I've got a little 29 cage in 4 cells. So that must be 5, 7, 8, 9. That's the only way of making 29 in 4 cells. And, well, I'm not seeing much else. A 12 cage does have to have a 1 and a 2 in it. And you can see, to see that, imagine that we didn't put a 2 in it and we only put a 1 in it. Then the minimum digits you could put into the cage would be 1, 3, 4 and 5. And 1, 3, 4 and 5 add to 13, which is too many. So there's got to be a 1 and a 2 in a 12 cage. Oh, right. So probably what I should do then is to copy these pencil marks down, shouldn't I? So those squares have got to be 5, 7, 8, 9. Ooh, okay, and though that 12 cage has to have a 1 and a 2 in it. I was wondering if I could do maths. Maths based on a secret, but it's a secret I only tell my favourite people. But of course, if you're watching, you're definitely one of those people. And I will tell you the secret, but just don't tell anybody else. The secret is that any complete row of a Sudoku, any complete column, and indeed any complete box, because the rules of Sudoku say that those things have to have the digits 1 to 9 once each in them, if you add up the digits 1 to 9, you get 45. So I know, for example, that this row adds up to 45. And what I was just mulling for a moment is whether 59, 51, 67, no, no, no. So I could work out those squares, for example, have to add up to 23 at first blush, and I think that's not restricted. We could also work out the value of those 3 squares using the same sort of principle. So there we'd get 29 plus 21 is 50, plus 12 is 62. But we know that this box adds up to 45, so 62 minus 45 is 17 into those 3 squares, which are the same, I suppose, as those 3 squares. So those 3 squares have to add to 17. And actually, that is very, very pretty, isn't it? Because how do we do that? How do we make these 3 squares add up to 17? Bearing in mind that we can't make, these 2 digits can't be that big. Because if they're big, they're either going to break the 12 total, or we're going to have an issue, well, we're going to have an issue with filling these 2 cells in. There's no way those 2 cells could be less than a 1-2 pair. And 1 plus 2 is 3. So the maximum value of this domino is 9. But we know that these 3 squares have to add up to 17. So if we max this domino out at 9, that has to be an 8. And it can't be an 8 because that would go there in the top grid and see that cell. So that means we can't make these add up to 9, but we can't make this digit bigger than 9, can we? So what we've got to do, this has to be 9, these have to add up to 8. It's the only way we can make these 3 digits add up to 17. Because if we reduce these any further than we already have, if we reduce these to add up to less than 8, this would have to be at least a 10, and that's not going to work. And we can't make these any higher without making this break, because this is a minimum of 3. That's very clever. It's very clever and very hard to see, because you're sort of having to scan those 3 digits in the top grid to appreciate there's any restriction on the value of that one. So those 2 squares now. Yeah, okay, so if these 2 add up to 8, these 2 have to add up to 4, and they have to be a 1-3 pair, therefore. And if these are a 1-3 pair, and these have to add up to 8, then they cannot be 1-7 or 3-5 without repeating a digit in a Tetris piece, so those digits are 2 and 6. And then, okay, and then we transpose all this up here, I suppose. So that's a 2-6 pair. This is a 1-3 pair. This digit is a 9. That digit is not a 9. That digit is not a 9. 6 in the top grid is living in one of those 3 positions. Okay, and these 3 cells which complete the 21 cage by Sudoku in the bottom grid have to be 2, 4 and 6. So these are 2, 4 and 6. That cell sees a 2 via the mechanism of row 6 in the top grid. Okay, so that means that's not a 2, which means we've got a 2 there and a 2 in that domino. Yeah, and that's weird. That is weird. Yeah, okay, so what that means, I don't think this matters, but I'm just going to mention it. This Tetris piece now does not have a 2 in it, does it? Oh, well, you could actually see that from that grid. I was sort of seeing it because I was looking at the 2 here, looking at this domino, and noticing that that 2 looked at that domino, but actually you can see it fairly clearly from the top grid. Right, okay, well what about 9 then? 9 has to go in one of those squares in box 1 of the top grid. Which I'm sure is very interesting. Ah, all right, okay, all right. I'm going to change my mind then. I was looking at that green Tetris piece and noticing that couldn't have a 2 in it. But why don't we look at that Tetris piece? Because that also can't have a 2 in it, for a sort of a similar reason. There's a 2 here in the bottom grid, looking at the top 3 cells of it, and there's a 2 in the top grid, looking at the bottom cell of it. So there's no 2 in that 16 cage, so does there have to be a 1 in it? Yes, I think. 3, 4, 5 and 6 add up to 18. Ah, in fact, there's no 6 in it either, I've suddenly just seen. All right, so this 16 cage, which cannot have a 2 in it, must have a 1 in it. And that 1 is not in the bottom position because of the bottom grid. This is absolutely mad. So you have to put a 1 in it. And it's not got a 6 in it. And it's not got a 2 in it. So does it have to have a 3 in it? And the answer to that is if it doesn't have a 3 in it, it would be at least 1, 4, 5 and 7, which is 17. So it does have a 3 in it. And the 3 in it is not in the bottom cell because of this grid. So the 3 in it is in the top of it. So we've now got 2 digits in this tetromino that add up to 4. So the other 2 digits in it are going to have to add up to 12. Okay, and not be 3, 9 because there's already a 3 in the cage. That digit is a little bit under pressure because this is definitely part of the 2 cells in this Tetris piece that add up to 12 because it's not a 1 or a 3. So it's either a 4, an 8, a 5 or a 7, and it's not an 8. So that's a 4, a 5 or a 7, which means that is a 4, a 5 or a 7. And that is, I think, hopeless, isn't it? That's not doing anything. Am I wrong about that? Is that somehow doing something? I don't think that is doing anything. I can't put a 2 in this 16 cage. So 2 in the top box. Can I put a 2 there? No, because that's the same as that cell, and that sees a 2 there. So 2 is in one of 3 positions in box 2, none of which are in cages. Okay, I think I've gone awry here, haven't I? I don't think I'm looking at the right thing all of a sudden. What about... Can we do some more maths somehow? What about maths? Maybe maths on box 6? 44 plus 3 is 47, plus that cell, which is at least a 3. So this is adding up to at least 50, which would make those have to add up to 5 to get us back to 45. So these are adding up to 5, or a number between 5. Oh, that can't be actually 8 or 9. 47. So if that was 7, we'd have 54, and then these would add up to 9. Ugh, that's horrible. No. Okay, maths on this box is a red herring. I don't want to think about red herrings, not after yesterday. I'm not thinking about red herrings. Okay, so what is it then? Come on, Simon. Is it going to be... okay, maybe it's not maths on this box. Maybe it's how many... Okay, let's try this. Let's try this. How many of these cells in box 9? Well, no, is that box 9? 1, 2... No, that's box 12. We're going to call this box 12 because that's box 9. How many of these cells in box 12 can be 1s and 2s? That's quite an interesting question. 1 looks restricted to me, because 1 can't be in the bottom of the red Tetris piece, and 1 can't be in the top of the purple Tetris piece, so it can't be in those squares. But also 1 can't be in the top 2 cells of the 16 piece by Sudoku on the top grid, so 1 in box 9 is in one of 2 places only. And that is, oh well, okay, so 1 in box 8, no, box 11 is in one of 3 places. Ah, that's very pretty indeed. That's just gorgeous. I don't know how people have the idea to come up with nonsense like this, but Trevor has come up with nonsense, because look, now we've got a 1 pencil marked into these 3 positions, which correspond, unless I'm very much mistaken, to those 3 positions in the top box. Now 2 of these see a 1 just by Sudoku, so those can't be 1. So that is a 1 we're going to get given. Well, not really given, it's quite a hard-earned 1 in box 5 and box 11. Now, now we shall say, oh bobbins, this doesn't do anything, does it? It was a very, very pretty digit, but I don't think it does anything. I'm going to check 2 in this box as well, because 2 sees those 3, which are those 3. 2 sees that one, and 2 sees the top 3 cells of the purple, which are these 3. So 2, okay, so 2 is in one of those 3 cells, I think, of box 12. No, there's a 2 pencil mark there, is that correct? Why wasn't that a 2? Oh, because of this grid. Okay, yeah, so that's not a 2. So now there's a 2 quite low down in row. Oh no, that's naughty. Because although that's box 12, that's row 13, isn't it? I mean, if I call that row 10, 11, 12, 13. So in row 13, the 2 is low, which means the 2... Oh, this is gorgeous. Right, look what this is doing. So now 2 is in the 20 cage because it's not there, which means that this 20 cage has a 1 and a 2 in it, so it must have an 8 and a 9 in it. And look, the 9 can't go there. So that's got to be a 2-9 pair out of absolutely nowhere, and that's got to be an 8 by mathematics, I think. So that's an 8 now, which is doing something. Oh, I see. So it's pushing 6 into these 2 squares. And these 2 squares are 2 and 9 in the top grid. So 9 by Sudoku is in the 21 cage. And 2 by Sudoku. Oh, that's nice as well. This is quality. This is real quality. Look at 2 in box 4. Really box 4. It's in this domino. Now if we scan up, I mean, and actually let me stop there, Trevor. I mean, it is outrageous that you're making me do Sudoku in your Sudoku puzzle, but you appear to have gone down that dastardly route. But look, 2 in column 3 now can't go in those 6 cells because of these 2 pencil marks. So 2's got to be in one of those 3 squares, but at the same time in box 7 it's in one of those squares, and the only square that fills both of those criteria is that one. So this is a 2, which means that this is a 2, which means this is not a 2. Now, what does that mean? So that means I don't know what that means. 8 now in this box is in one of 3 places. So 8 is in one of 2 places in box 4. It's quite difficult for that to be an 8, but I don't think it's impossible. That would mean these two squares would have to be a 1-3 pair, so that would be a 3, which would be the same. Oh, hang on, I've not put a 9. Look, I've got a 9 in the 21. I've not put a 9 in this one. It's meant to go there. Ah, so that's not a 9. So now... Oh, this doesn't do anything. Haha, okay, alright. But I was thinking, wasn't I, about 1s and 3s in this box. That would be a 3, which would be here. Oh, that doesn't work. That doesn't work, believe it or not. This is not an 8. Because if that's an 8, those two squares, which are the same as these two squares, have to be a 1-3 pair by maths. And that square cannot be a 1 or a 3. So that square cannot be an 8, which means 8 has been moved into the 23 cage. Okay, there's an 8 now in one of these two cells. And that, I think that's remarkably unimportant, I'm afraid. I don't think I can do much with that. Might be wrong, but okay. That was sort of exciting, but I don't think it does anything. Is it possible to put 1 and... No, it is. I was thinking, can I put 1 and 2 in the 16 cage? But of course, that just means those two add up to 13. That's fine. Alright, so now we shall look at maths on that box, actually. Might be worth thinking about. Because I know what those three add up to. Look, they add up to 12. 12 plus 22 is 34. So these two squares have to add up to 11 to make that box add up to 45. So this square is either a 4, a 7, or a 6, which is that square. So this square is 4, 7, or 6. Oh, bobbins. I think that's totally useless as well. Am I right about that, or am I missing a trick there? I don't think I can do anything with that, I'm afraid. Oh, for goodness sake. Ah! I just noticed something very annoying. Okay, column 3 of the real grid. Look, there's a 1-3 pair there, so you can't put 1s and 3s into those squares. So where are we putting 1s and 3s in this column? The answer is one of them is there, and one of them is here. Oh, okay, so I'm going to do the same trick. Where does 6 go in this column? Boom. It's got to go there. So that's a 6, that's a 4, that's a 6, that's a 4. So 6 now in box 5 of the real grid is in one of 2 places, and that again allows us to sort of use this pattern where digits are repeating in the same 2 columns of the grid to ask where 6 goes in column 4, because it can't go here and it can't go there. So 6 is in one of these 3 positions. Now one of them is in a cage, which would be that one. I don't think that's impossible. So what does this mean? I wish I knew. Okay, all right. Now I think we're getting into the realms of being totally stuck, aren't we? So we've got that digit. Okay, so that digit is going to go in one of those 2 squares in box 1. There's a 4 in one of these 3 squares. I think what I've got to try and do though is force myself to focus on the cages, because when we do logic on the cages, we learn much more, don't we, about because of the correspondences between the 2 grids. It all gets quite exciting quite quickly. Okay. So what do we do now? I wish I knew. Could we argue that... I've not got a card. No, I don't even know where to look here. Oh, I know one thing. 1 and 3 are in the top of that 16 cage, aren't they? I haven't really pencil marked that. So we've got 1, 3, and then the digit that accompanies this digit, which is either... we need this, so it was 12, wasn't it? So oh, that's useful. That is useful. Okay, that cannot be a 4. I don't think. Because if that's a 4, I've got to put 8 in there to make this cage add up to 16. Because I know it's got 1 and 3 in it. I need the other 2 digits to add up to add up to 12. Yeah, I think this has been available for a while. So that square is not 4. But now, I know that these squares are now 1, 3, and then 5 or 7. Whatever's not used here is used here. But also, those 2 squares had to add up to something. 11, wasn't it? Yeah, these 2 have to add up to 11. So if I get rid of 4 from here, I get rid of 7 from there. Oh, so maybe it's maths on this little conurbation of Tetris pieces. What have we got here? We've got 44, 60. So in order to make, we know they add up to 45, so these add up to 15. Yeah, no, that's no use. That's too average. The average Sudoku digit is a value 5, isn't it? If you think about the average value of the numbers 1 to 9, given the secret I told you earlier, the average digit is the average digit is 5. So those three's expected value would be 15, and that is indeed what they do add up to. And when this is also remarkably average, I don't think we can do much with this. 4 in this row, though, is going to have to be in that domino, which is that one or that one. Now, I don't think we can do anything with that. We can say that well, yeah, okay. I can say something about that. Yeah, that's actually really interesting. So the fact you get a 4 pencil marked into those 2 cells means there's a 4 in one of these 2 cells. But that means we can ask a question about where 4 goes in box 6, doesn't it? Because we've got 2 choices. Either 4 goes in this cell, because it's in one of these 2 cells, or if this cell is the 4, so if that is a red 4, then the 4 in this box in the top grid can't repeat in the cage. So it can't go in any of those squares by Sudoku. There'd be a 4 here ruling a 4 out of these, and the 4 here rules a 4 out of repeating in its cage. So there is always a 4 in one of these 2 positions in the 21 cage. So it's either here or it's in one of these 2 positions if that's a 4. So there's always a 4. So now we've got 13 in our 21 cage. One of these is a 4. And we need 8 more, don't we? We need 8 more. So the bottom digit is always part of 2 cells in this that add up to 8. So it's either going to be 1, 7, 2, 6, or 3, 5. Now. Right, well hang on. That little cell can't actually be a 2, I've suddenly noticed, because there's a 2 here looking at that square. So that's not a 2. Which seems to suggest 2 has to go there. In the 16 cage. I don't believe that for a moment. How is that true? Well, actually, no, actually that is true. Yes, okay. Okay, by Sudoku on rows 11 and 12 and 13, there is a 2 in one of these 3 cells, but that 2 rules it out of there, which is that one. So there is a 2 in one of these 2, and if that's a 2, and it breaks there. So that is a 2. There is a 2 in the 16 cage, which is that digit. So that's a 2. This is completely, absolutely mad, isn't it? So that means there's a 2. Oh, I thought I was going to get a 2 in box 3 there, but that pencil mark is an annoying one. I was seeing these 2 and thinking I could write a 2 in the corner, but actually, look, the 2 has 3 possible positions in box 2, so we can't do that. Okay, but the 2 there is quite profound, or not profound, it sort of hammers home the fact that however we're getting to 8 in our 2 more cells that aren't 4 and 9 in the 21 cage, we're not using a 2-6 pair. So it's either a 1-7 pair, so that could be a 1, look. A 1-7 pair or a 3-5 pair. Okay, I think that's probably fine. Okay, so what do we do now? We can... Oh, I tell you what I ought to do. I ought to start making sure that I'm doing proper due diligence on all of these cells at the top where we've actually got some stuff in the cells at the bottom. Look, that can't be 7 anymore, so that's 4 or 6. These 2 squares have to be from 1, 3 and 6. Now, that's unhelpful. What about... Gosh, if that's a 1, that has to be a 6 and that has to be a 7. That would be quite useful. This row, I still need to place 4, 5, 7 and 8. 4, 5, 7 and 8. Can I do anything with that? I don't know. 5 in this box is in one of those 2 positions. That's nearly helpful, but not actually helpful. Is it, or am I wrong? I'm talking total nonsense as well. There doesn't necessarily have to be a 5 in there. I was suddenly thinking, what can I do the same with 7? No, it's what it is true to say is that whichever of 5 or 7 is in that triple, it does go in that domino. But that's a very, very different thing to what I was trying to do there. Oh, where's 6 in this box? Can we do more with that? Well, a little bit more. Oh, that's it. That's it. I'm so sorry. It's really obvious, isn't it? Okay, so do you remember we... Hopefully you remember. I've only just remembered. We worked out there was no 6 in this 21 cage. Well, the 6 here means the 6 in box 6 is in a domino. But more important than that, surely... Oh no, it's beautiful. Actually, it's just simple. Well, simple is totally the wrong word. Wrong adjective, Simon. Where does 6 go in box 6? And therefore in box 12? because I've just worked out 6 is in this domino, but there's a 6 there, look. So the 6 is placed in box 12, which means it's placed in box 6. Which means it's placed in box 5, which seems to mean it's placed in box 2. Good grief. And that is going to be useful for the following reason. Come on, brain. Come up with reason. Oh, well, yeah, look, that 6 is looking at that square, so that's become a 4, which means that's become a 4. Now that was part of a domino here that had to add up to 11, so that becomes a 7, which means I've got a 1, 3, 5 pair at the top. I think one thing it would be, oh, so right, so now I have got a 5 here, and nothing else. So I've got 7, 4. What? Oh no, that's nonsense. I was about. Hang on. So what's my 22 cage made up of now? It's made up of 3, 5, 6, and 8. Do 3, 5, 6, and 8 add up to 22? They do. So this cage, look, yeah, here we go. 3, 5, 6, and 8, but the 6 and 8 have to go in the lower positions. And in fact, that's 6. That's beautiful. It's so clever, isn't it? So that's 6, 8. That's 6, 8. This is 3, 5, which means this is 3, 5, which is nearly doing things. Now this has got to be 4, 7, and 8. That's not 8, look. So that square's a 4 or a 7 by Sudoku. And now, well, oh, hang on. Now I've got 14 in 2 cells of my 23 cage, so I need 9 more, which can't be 3, 6 or 1, 8. So, that's it. Look, you can't put 2 in that 23 cage at all by Sudoku, so it's not 2, 7. So the only thing left is 4, 5, and the 4 of that 4, 5 can't go in those squares, so it must go there. So that is 4, that is 4, this is a 5, 8 pair to make the maths work. There seems to be a clock that's being very, very persistent in my house. That's that. Oh, so now that's a 4 as well, which is the cell above the 9. So that's a 4. These 2 squares have got to be 3 and 7. Can you hear it? It keeps going. It's like time is expiring even faster than usual. Right, by mathematics, this is a 1 or a 5, which means that is a 1 or a 5. I have 5, which is nearly good, but not quite. 5 here, though, is useful, because that means that's not a 5, which means there is a 5. Oh, look, this 8's doing work as well. All sorts of things are happening now. We've got a 5, 7, 9 triple here, which makes the 1 in the corner, 1 therefore, that's 7 by maths, that's 3 by Sudoku. That's a 3 by Sudoku, so now we can do math. That's 9, so that's got to be a 7. I suppose that was Sudoku. This is a 7. Look, have we actually... Yeah, okay, so now, I might be wrong about what I'm about to say, but it feels like I filled in all of the Tetris pieces. And if I filled in all of the Tetris pieces, haven't I reduced this puzzle now to Sudoku? Because there shouldn't be any backwards and forwards communication between the top and the bottom of the grid anymore, I think. So that's got to be an 8. Look, so this is now 5, 7, 9. We've just got to make sure that's a 1. So this is a 3. Right, so those squares are a 1. Oh, they're 4 and 1, which we can fill in. Which means these don't have 4 in them. Which means that is a 4 and that is a 7. These don't have 6 in, look. 7 in column 4 has to go there. These 2 squares have got to be something. 2 and 5, I realise something is probably not the correct description. Well, it is in a way. 6, here we go. So 6, 2, 2, 5. 8, 7. 7 comes out of here, 5 comes out of here. This is a chocolate teapot triple, but the 1 is still working. So 1 and 3, 7 and 9 into this square, and that square's 5 or 9, but it's not 5 because there's a 1, 3, 5 triple in the row. So that's 9, that's 7, that's 5. That fixes the chocolate teapot triple. These squares on the left of this box a 4, 5, 8, which means that's a naked single. That's a 5. So we should be able to do something with row 3 now. So we've got 2, 7 and 9. Yeah, that's a naked single. That's a 2. That's a 9. That's a 7. Hooray! And therefore, I haven't done maths on this box. Oh, I don't need to do maths on this box. I filled it in down here. That's a 7. That's a 3. Oh, I'm going to get a 3 in the corner. Am I? No, I'm not going to get a 3 in the corner. I thought I was going to get a 3 in the corner. 3, 3. I was looking forward to it, and then that 3 blocks it off. Bobbins. Okay. So that 3 comes out of here. All right, so how do we do this then? Is there a way of doing this with some sort of aplomb? Why don't we look at 5? Yeah, we can do 9 here and 5 in row 7, and that 5 does this. And that removes this. So the only place for 3 in the top row now is there. This column, oh, this is fixed. That's a 1, that's a 5, using the 5 that we've got there. That's a 5, that's an 8. So this column needs 1s and 4s into it. Oh, yeah, that's doable. Using this 4. This needs 8 and 9, we can do that. This column needs an 8, we can do that. This box needs a 5 and a 6, we can do that. This square here has got to be a something, a 9. That gives us the 9 and the 2. That's a 2 by Sudoku. That's an 8, that's a 4. This needs to have 4 in it, so that's got to go there, and some other digit that I can't scan quickly enough for my brain. And now down here we just need 1s, 2s and 3s. Well, that should be doable, shouldn't it? There we go. Oh, now what we must do, though, is not be lazy. And just because we've filled in the grid, we must, of course, copy this across into the bottom grid to make ourselves feel better about ourselves. So let's try and do that. And then we will click tick and earn our reward. So 5, 9, 7. There we go. So all looks filled in. Oh no, what did I do wrong there? Bobbins, that doesn't look quite right. Puzzle doesn't include solution. Okay, so perhaps, well, it looks like there's an awful lot of incorrectness. Inexactitudes are aplenty. No. Okay, I'm going to claim this is correct, because as I stare at this now, if you look at all the rednesses I've been awarded, they are all duplications in columns. 6185, 6185, 2349, 2349. So what the machine has tried to do is it's tried to scan this column as a total. It's tried to say, it's looked down the whole of the column and said, are there any repeats? And it said, yes, there are loads, and I'm going to tell you about them. So I think it just doesn't understand. And the fact that all of the repeats are identical to the sort of bottom 4 digits suggests, I'm just scanning the rows now to see if it looks like I've got no repeats in the rows. I can't see any. I hope that's right, even though the machine has made a right mess of my grid. There we go, that's prettier. I think it's right. I'm not certain, but I think it's right. And what I can tell you is I absolutely love that, Trevor. That was brilliant. It is weird and wonderful, and yeah, the way you have to sort of figure out how the digits go backwards and forwards. My favourite bit was 4s, though the fact, I think it was this, there was a 4 in that domino which put a 4 in one of those 2 places, and you could use that to say there had to be a 4 in the 21 cage. I'm not even sure that did loads and loads of things, but I found it very interesting that that logic existed. That's extremely strange logic. Yeah, it's a brilliant puzzle, so imaginative. Loved it. Let me know in the comments how you got on. I enjoy the comments, especially when they're kind. And we'll be back later with another edition of Cracking the Cryptic.